A resolution of the tension surrounding faculty recruiting. A proposal. Prepared for Dr. Anthony Harris, Professor and Chair, Department of Educational Leadership, Sam Houston State University. Prepared by Kelly Filgo, Allison Knoll, and Natalie Rhodes, graduate students in Higher Education Administration at Sam Houston State University. A summary of the issue. Dr. Harris is frustrated with the current state of faculty involvement in recruiting, noting specifically in our communications previously that networking with high school and college contacts is an ineffective technique, but seems to be the primary way that administration wants faculty to engage. Also that faculty fear blame and reprisal from administration when enrollment is down, leading to a demoralized work environment and ultimately a poor experience for their current students. Additionally, Dr. Harris identified that there's a difference of opinions concerning responsibility for recruiting. Even though faculty are the owners of the programs, administration is giving the marching orders and not seeking a whole lot of input from faculty. So Dr. Harris also feels like administration is not hearing your point of view, which leads to his frustration and also no doubt leads to the frustration of his faculty as well. Our proposed strategy is based on the fact that we feel like there's a poor communication between the stakeholders. That's likely going to derail any implementation of policy, no matter how valid the policy's merits are. So really that seems to us to be the crux of the problem. Ultimately, what we want to do is have the stakeholders devise a solution to the problem at hand and share in its success. Or our strategy centers around helping the communication happen better. So what we're going to attempt to do is bring clarity to the issue. We want to better understand the various points of view. We also want to find common ground from which to build attainable goals, and then empower all the stakeholders to give valued input in the process so that communication flows up and down, not just from the top. Our 4 initial steps that we suggested and we've now completed, we have identified the stakeholders. That was all 3 of us worked on that together. I created an annotated bibliography on the topic, and Ms. Knoll did a quantitative survey for all the stakeholders, and Ms. Rhodes did a qualitative survey for all of the stakeholders. So let's talk about those stakeholders for a second. We rather quickly identified those as faculty, institutional administration, and then the enrollment management staff and the support personnel who are involved. But we also, through the reading and the literature, discovered there's another group that we didn't really consider in the first place, but definitely need to be part of this solution, or at least we need to make sure their needs are being met and all this, and that's the current students. They stand to experience a diminished school experience when faculty are expected to be involved in recruitment to such a level that they just don't have time for them outside of class anymore. There is a lot of evidence that says when students have access to faculty outside of class, student learning goes up, completions go up, and the quality of the education rise as well. Also, students are going to pick up on that frustrated faculty attitude, and they'll even start modeling that demoralized state themselves. And that's certainly something we do not need to have happening in our programs. Let's talk a little bit about the results of the annotated bibliography. There are copies being sent in the email to Dr. Harris and to Dr. Fuller for you to take a look at. And it's meant to serve as a reading list on the subject. There's about a dozen very good articles, 2 doctoral dissertations. So I have everything in there ranging from a page or 2 up to over 160 pages. So lots of different things for you to look at. They're intended to bring the clarity of an outside perspective to the issue. Sometimes we get so focused on what's in front of us that we can forget to take a look at what's going on outside at other campuses as well. Plus, we also can forget that we're not alone in this. So a good reading list, I think, is going to be very helpful to us. Now, interestingly, I was not able to find any literature that defended the position that faculty should not be involved in recruiting at all. I'm sure that's would make most of the faculty pretty happy if we could defend that position, but there is not a lot of, or any literature that I could find out there. And I even used the resources of a librarian, research librarian, to help me do some of that research. So we couldn't find anything. I certainly wanted to include some of that literature, but I just could not find anything backing that position. There are, however, many articles that talk about the virtues of faculty involvement, but they caution that they must be done in a very collaborative way. So the most common theme in the literature is that successful efforts to engage faculty in recruiting are going to use clear and open communication with the faculty members involved, recognizing that dual governance of college goals is very important. Top-down marching orders only result in a hostile environment and unsuccessful outcomes. So for faculty to be effective in recruiting, they really do need to have a voice in how their involvement is executed. And of course, that's going to transfer over to the enrollment management staff as well. That's a little bit more clearly defined in their job description, so I think their opinion might get ignored in all this, but we want to make sure they're part of it as well. Let's talk about the quantitative survey. A sample of questions for the stakeholders is provided for Dr. Harris to use as a starting point for a tool if he wants to run this kind of a survey. The intent, of course, would be to discover any hidden attitudes and perceptions about the faculty regarding the recruiting issues. So the data gathered can be used to assess the current situation, identify problem areas, and plan some next steps. And by analyzing each of those stakeholder groups separately, we can ensure that their voice is heard while remaining anonymous in the process, which is, of course, going to be important to address that issue of fear of reprisal or punishment, or even just sort of hidden attitudes towards faculty from administration. The qualitative survey, we also have sample questions provided for Dr. Harris to look at. Same thing, it's to discover the hidden attitudes and perceptions about the issue. These questions are geared to discover what each stakeholder group feels is their responsibility in the enrollment management process. That's going to be probably a point of contention between groups. And then additionally, the questions will help identify areas that each group either feels confident in or undertrained in. So we hope to discover some things there that will be helpful. We would then move to an evaluation phase. Now, actually executing these proposed survey tools is beyond the scope of this project. But with Dr. Fuller's guidance, he said we could just outline what would we do with them. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for meaningful patterns and common themes in the survey data. They're going to look for strengths and or weaknesses of the current attitudes by all of the stakeholders. We're going to analyze them separately, each group. We're going to review the literature in the bibliography in order to find if the survey results are going to indicate a misalignment or a good alignment with the best practices. And if we've got misalignment, then we're going to seek solutions for that, which would, of course, lead us to an implementation phase. And our stated goal is to get all the stakeholders communicating and seeking their own solutions for the tension surrounding faculty recruiting expectations. Again, if we just say, hey, here's what you're going to do, this problem is now solved, and we shut down communication on it, we're going to continue to be in the same boat. We're still going to have a lot of problems. So without a completed survey and evaluation as proposed, we can't really propose a detailed list of recommended actions here. But we do have some things that we want to propose, mostly that the literature and the annotated bibliography suggested as best practices, the common themes in the literature. So what we have, number one, we've got to get all the stakeholder groups talking to each other in structured and professional and respectful sessions in order to facilitate understanding. We've got to form an ongoing communication committee once that process is over so that we can keep doing this just on a smaller scale in order to give a voice to the separate groups. We really feel pretty strongly that once we've got the communication moving back and forth, that people will start to get on board. We also want to develop training for all parties. It's not only going to empower them to do their jobs that they've been asked to do with effective tools, but also and probably even more importantly, is going to help them understand the need for faculty involvement in recruiting, why it's a good idea, why it's effective, and possibly most importantly for faculty, how it's going to impact their job. A lot of the literature talked about when faculty are involved, they can actually improve the quality of the student in their classroom. And as a faculty member of my institution, I certainly can back up that sentiment that, who wouldn't want more active and more engaged students? So when faculty get involved with that, that really does tend to help. So additionally, a couple more items here. We want to find ways to leverage technology to create opportunities to get faculty faces and bios in front of prospective students that don't require constant input from faculty. Nobody wants to go on 9 recruiting sessions, or 10 or 15 recruiting sessions a semester when they're trying to teach and research and do the rest of their job. So if we can spend a little bit of time on the front end developing some ways to use technology to get potential students exposure to the faculty, takes maybe a few hours of effort, maybe even a full day of writing some stuff and shooting some video. But once it's done, it can be used for quite a long time before it needs to be redone. So that's a very effective tool that we found in the literature. Also, we want to design incentive packages for faculty involvement, but not just faculty. We also want to honor and showcase the recruiting staff who are doing an excellent job as well. And they don't have to drain the budget with these items. It doesn't just have to be monetary. Get creative with the ways to recognize and honor these efforts. You might actually find out or discover some things during the talking sessions that would stick out as incentive packages if you were listening carefully for those things. So that sort of brings us back to, let's keep the communication flowing both up and down the chain of command, give everyone a voice, help people understand why it is that we're having to do what we need to do. We should be able to have a default assumption that everyone wants a win here, that we want a good school, that we want full classrooms, and that are full of top-notch students who really want to be there and be involved. So getting that message flowing back and forth is, I think, going to be a very big part of the solution to this problem. So that's the presentation. I'd like to thank Dr. Harris for being part of this project and allowing us to be part of this project. Recognize that his time is a very valuable asset. Appreciate the generosity of helping us as a mentor. Also, of course, we'd like to thank Dr. Fuller for the guidance and support along the way. And then, just as sort of the voice of the team here, I'd like to thank all of the team members. That would be me, Kelly Filgo, Allison Knoll, Natalie Rhodes. Group projects can be a bit of a downer sometimes. I felt like this team did a great job working together. We're all very respectful of each other's time, each other's talents, each other's perspectives. So I think I speak for everyone involved when I say this was a great experience. So thank you for the opportunity.